welcome to I Created a Life I Love.
Hi, everyone.
It's Kristine and Janette. We are back. We are on episode 11 today. So we're hoping you guys are all having a great week. It's been a very eventful week for me. I know that. And we're talking about, so today we're sticking with this whole month. Last month was really delving into judgment and all the different types of judgment that we have in our life. And this month, we're really jumping into being brave and courage, facing fears, all those type of things that go with bravery. And so today's focus is we're really looking at setting boundaries and how it's really an act of bravery and being courageous and self protective and kindness, really, even to yourself and to the people around you, to have clear
Yeah.
boundaries in your relationships and friendships and all of that. So, we're going to delve into that today. But before we do, let's start with our what's up. So, what's up, Jeanette?
So I've been spending a lot of time outside enjoying the good weather that we've been having in Vegas.
Nice.
And I've been repurposing some furniture. So, like fixing up some furniture that I had previously, just making it look better.
That's
And
so
so,
cool.
restaining it, sanding it, restaining it, and just, making sure it looks great. It's mostly furniture in my backyard. So, um, I'm getting it ready so when we have more visitors in the future, if they want to come and enjoy your backyard before the summer, they can. So, I'm really excited about that because I've never done this before. And it's giving me like a sense of like peace too when I'm outside and, giving my dog a chance to be outside and enjoy the sun. So we're both enjoying the outdoors right now.
That's so cool. I love it because you won't be able to do it for very long in Vegas.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because then you
Take
guys are
advantage
just
of the time.
inside. Starting at what month do you guys have to just be inside all the time?
Well, we've been doing some research and it's like June to about probably August, September. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
I think it's crazy. All you people in Arizona and Vegas and Nevada, all this. Ugh, But again, I grew up in Minnesota, so we were, locked inside for from like right October, end of October, November through January, February, really, because of the snow as well. So I guess, which is why I'm in California. So
Yeah.
there you have it.
So what's up
Um,
with you, Christine?
Let's see. Well, so my what's up is I am healing from my surgery. I'm not going to go into a ton of details as because I'm right in the midst of all of it, but spirits are good. Um, it's hard, like, it's, that continuous getting healthy. I think we talked about this a little last week. Just the process of, you heal up and you start feeling yourself again and good again, and your body's moving. And then I, had to go under the knife again. So this is my third time around with this, and we're hoping that this is the last time. So I'm waiting to hear that information. So when I do, I'll share that lovely information with everybody. But yeah, so it's just mentally, getting yourself strong and knowing, okay, we're back to, I don't know if you want to say square one, because every time it's a little different and a different, situation, but, back to the healing part again. And so going through that and just having to be patient with your body and loving and caring and just keeping my mind busy. So it's good to be up and sitting here doing this. That gives me great joy, and to see your face and to be able to do this. So thank you to everybody listening. It's a great way of keeping your spirits up and my spirits up, definitely, and being able to do something like this. So that's wonderful. So yeah, so it's just that part. And I have my sister-in-law is here right now, which is great. My girls were here for my first two surgeries, and and we got them back to their lives. They gave up good chunks of their lives to stop everything and their jobs and school and all of that to be here with me. So I tried to and felt that this time around I would go a different way so they didn't have to do that again. And so but they've been, continuously, Zooming, FaceTiming, etc., and supportive. They're amazing. But my sister-in-law was wonderful enough to come out, and then good friends that are close by are also being here and stopping by, and then people sending me things and soup and food and all that kind of fun stuff. So
Mhm.
that's been, and I love food. So like it's just that's been really wonderful. So no complaints, but yeah, we're back rebuilding. And so, yeah, so there we are. And we'll get through it. And so we can move on to our topic today of the boundaries aspect. And I said this a little bit last week, but I'll just reiterate. My generation, I don't feel, and again, I never want to speak for an entire generation of people, but I don't feel as Gen Xers, we really had this whole boundary thing. You know, as something or in our vocabulary even, let alone something that we were doing and setting up in our relationships. I can definitely say I was not. I never have used the word, this is my boundary, and you're crossing over my boundary lines and all of that kind of stuff. So I think this is something that really became popular, I don't know, about 20 years ago, right? Maybe 15 years ago. I don't know. You can maybe give me a gauge better on that, Jeanette, and something that people really started saying and using a lot more in conversations, and deciding to make sure that they state clearly what their boundaries are and have clear boundaries as to what they will accept. And I know there's also like hard boundaries and soft boundaries. So we're going to talk about that too. So do you want to kind of take it away, Jeanette, is what your experience and
Sure. And, I will say growing up, it wasn't really taught, about boundaries until maybe my teenage years.
okay.
And,
And you're in your 30s, right? So that would be like
yeah,
15, yeah, so like
yeah,
15 years ago, right? 15 to
yeah,
18 years ago? That's what I was thinking.
yeah. And so it was more, spoke about like, especially when, and the one thing I can think about is social media. You got to have boundaries in social media. Um, and nowadays it's easy to do so. And a lot of advice is out there. Keep work and personal life separate, as far as creating that boundary. And I know there's a lot of people out there that just want to friend you, on social media. And it's like, well, I don't know about that. And creating that boundary to ensure that, you keep whatever you want sacred, for the people who are really close to you. And so, the cool thing about social media, you can do close contacts, as far as who sees your story or your post, and choose what you share. So, I think growing up, we had to learn the hard way about what we can and or what we want to share and what we don't want to share. And then, it's kind of evolving into the future generations. When I'm even with my nephews and nieces, I create boundaries with them, and I ensure that they are well aware that, I can only do so much and I am not their parents and to, ensure that they still respect me, but at the same time, being, you know, just really ensuring that they understand, the difference between my role, their parents' role, and just helping them grow through that as well. Um, and it's always a learning curve for boundaries. Everybody has their own personal boundaries, and there's things that you really want to ensure who you can trust as well. I think trust is a big issue when trying to decide who has access to certain things and not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really depends on a person and what they want to share and what they don't want to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I've learned from my daughters, which has been fantastic, because I think they've grown up and they're um, both Gen Z, right? And they've grown up with, definitely saying and teaching me and using the word, this is a boundary for me. And I think that's where I've learned the most is watching them create them in their lives. And I think it is a act of kindness to yourself and to the people around you to be very clear as to what your boundaries are, because I think if that's the case, you lose a lot of resentment. Because I think what happens is when you don't have boundaries and someone treats you in a way that doesn't make you feel good, that doesn't make you feel safe, or, you know what I mean, talks to you in a certain tone, or work is taking advantage of you, calling you on your cell phone or texting you or whatever when it's past work time or something like that, you start to feel resentful, right? And you start to feel put upon. And in the fact then when you stop it and when you say, hey, this is a boundary for me, or this is not something that I feel is appropriate in our relationship, when you are clear and communicate that, then it's a matter, I think that resentment goes away because now you've said, okay, this is the boundary line, right? And so instead of you keeping it inside and resenting it, you've set the line, right? You've set where it is. And now if they start crossing that, then you know you have a problem, right? Because I think a lot of times lines can be crossed and people can act inappropriately. I don't want to say without knowing it, because adults have to be responsible for their behavior, and I hate it when they're not, and like I didn't even realize I was doing that to you. That whole thing kind of bothers me because I do think people are aware of appropriate behavior. But let's say it happens and let's say someone's, talking in a tone or using a derogatory, way of speaking in some way toward you that, is a problem for you and is a boundary that you need to stop. I know like one of them for me was in conversations with somebody who I was friends with. When we would disagree on something, they would get very personally attacking. Like the conversation could no
Mhm.
longer stay what it was about because they then turned it into, oh, well, you're just blah, 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 or you're just this. And instead of keeping the personal aspect away so we could stay on topic, they didn't, right? And so I had to say to them, look, I love having conversations with you about all the things happening out in the world and sharing ideas, sharing different points of view. I have no problem if we disagree, but I don't feel that we can do that if you're going to turn it into like a personal, attack and like change the topic into that's just who I am instead of that's my opinion on something. And I had to, explain that to them, and they really responded well. They were just like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize I was saying it that way. I didn't mean to personally come at you. I love our talks as well. Like we can have a glass of wine or two and just, have fun and be laughing and, talk about stuff that might be difficult to talk about. I don't want to lose that. So thanks for letting me know." And that relationship took a huge turn for the better because of that. And I wasn't resentful anymore. I wasn't pulling away anymore, which is my normal reaction would be. My normal reaction would just be like, "Nope, I'm out." Right? And I think that
Mhm.
is a very Gen X thing to do. We're like, "Nope, like we're out." And I didn't do that in this, thanks to my daughters and their recommendation. I ran it by them and, kind of like the boundary and wording of how I was going to say it to this person to not hurt their feelings, but to be very clear about the boundary that I needed. And I would have to say it went really, really well. But I've also been in the situation where I've kind of told someone a boundary or something that they were doing in a work situation that was not appropriate with texting, not after, not at work time, after work, and asking me questions and something. And I made a comment to them about not responding, that I wouldn't be able to respond because it's after work time and I have plans this evening. And then they still, that same evening, texted me
Mm.
a question. And so that was the other end of it, is that, okay, now I have put it out there. I have made clear what my boundary was, and they're choosing to ignore that. And so now we've got a different situation. Like now, once I think you put a boundary out there and someone's not able to stick to that boundary for you, if they do understand it, right? That is not agree with it, but they have to at least understand it, so they know, what their responsibilities to it are. They weren't able to keep it, and so I had to remove myself from a consulting thing I was doing with them because they couldn't. They couldn't abide by that rule. So I think making a boundary is a clear way to me of just being able to see if someone respects you. Like,
Mhm.
that's my view on it. And I think you might have a different take on it from your generation. But for me, it's just a really clear way to see if someone respects you or not. Because if they are doing something that to you is crossing a line, once you make them aware of that and give them the opportunity to fix it and to change your relationship so that you feel good about it, the ones that do, fantastic. They're keepers, right? The ones that don't, right? I feel like that's gonna be a hard thing to fix in that relationship if they're unable to meet those boundaries. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, and it really does depend on the person and, who you're setting up the boundaries with. Like, they they could, definitely follow that boundary like you said earlier, or they choose not to follow it, or they're struggling because they might not even understand what boundaries are, you know?
Yeah.
And so, me and I set up boundaries with them, and then they will be like, "Oh, I don't really understand this. I'm going to do it anyway." So, like, in instance, my father, talking
That's
about my
right.
parents and my father, like, "No, no, no, you're not going to set up boundaries with me. I don't care. You're my child." And that's the way it is. So,
Yes, I'm telling you
yeah,
that's my generation, and that's the generation I was raised with, right? Like, I was like, if I'm in my 50s, so you know what I mean? My parents, there wasn't such a thing as boundaries whatsoever. If I
yeah,
would try to give my either of my parents a boundary, I don't even know that they would. Well, I can't with my mom. I don't know if I've told this or shared this with everybody, but we are struggling with my mom having dementia right now. So that's another situation. But before then, telling my parents that I was giving them a boundary as their child, I would have been laughed out of the room for sure.
yeah,
Absolutely for sure. And not even that. I think there there wasn't enough bandwidth where they were going to try and understand what the concept of a boundary was. Do you know what I
uh-huh,
mean? I think
yeah,
even that, I don't even know if they'd laugh you out of the room as much as they're not going to try and learn or figure out what a boundary is.
yeah, yeah,
That generation to give me what I need. It's like, sorry, this is it. I would say, as I've said, I have a lot of respect for your generation, my daughters, their generation, that you guys do have clear lines that you're drawing and saying, this isn't going to work for me. I think, especially in the workplace, I think that's the
oh
biggest
yeah,
factor for me is that, but again, being clear, when I first started out working in entertainment industry, so I was given when I first started like a pager, and very quickly no one could catch you when you were off of work. No one could call you anywhere.
uh-huh,
Like, because if you weren't home, then they couldn't catch you. If I left my pager at home, they couldn't find you. So we naturally had that break from work because the people weren't calling you on your home number. And if they were, you were getting a busy signal because if there was a teenager in the house, you know what I mean? They were on the phone. Like, so it was just a whole thing that we just didn't have the access. So I think it really became something really important for your generations because you guys had cell phones and it was just access 24/7 that people at work could call you, could text you, any of these things all the time.
yeah.
That's when it really got insane that people have access to you from work, from jobs that you are doing, from consulting, from anything 24/7.
And it's just been exacerbated with social media too,
Yeah.
but it's really cool because they put silence mode on, and just really understanding how to navigate those different platforms. And even if you have an Apple phone, they put like do not disturb, especially if you're even driving and it becomes dangerous. And don't call me from this to this hours because I'm working or I'm sleeping. I know my cousin, she does a graveyard shift, so she has to do it, and she can't take any calls during a certain time. And it's really important to ensure that others understand that too, because they can be texting you and calling you all day. Whew.
Well, and I'm on Slack on a couple companies that I am doing consulting for with curriculum and academic programs and such. And they're most all everybody, and they're much younger than me, many of them, on some of these video companies and stuff that I'm working with, and they all are turn off their notifications at a certain time, and it says right on their channel, which I think is fantastic. So I think you're right. I think that's one great way to make sure that you are setting good boundaries, and you don't even have to say anything to anyone, that you can clearly just turn off notifications, and it says, so and so Jeanette has notifications turned off or paused, I think it says at this time, which I think is fantastic. And then there doesn't even have to be a big conversation or, any of that. It's just done. And I think that's really important. So I think setting boundaries and having clear communication on a situation that is making you uncomfortable or starting to bring that resentfulness up is just such an act of kindness for yourself and for the other person in the relationship, because that means you get to keep the relationship. You get to fix it and build upon it. And like we said, if it goes the other way and the person still ignores, what you're saying, you're no worse off than you were when the boundary wasn't being met. You just now know for sure that that person is not going to respect you and you need to leave
Exactly.
the relationship. I think
Yeah.
it gets really hard when it gets into family, like our parents not respecting. I think there are certain generations and certain things that it's never going to happen. And you have to decide then what you're going to do about it. I mean, I know with my family, what I've had to do, I've found when I have asked and kind of said and stated that this was a boundary not being met by a family member, they've continued to kind of ignore it. I've set the boundary for them. So, in other words, whenever they text me or write to me about a certain topic that I've said I'm not going to go into anymore, I just don't respond at all. So I'm keeping my own boundary. And I think that's really important as well. So whether they choose to not do it or all, it's sad to me that they won't. I'm not going to cut them out of my life. But I'm still keeping that boundary. And that boundary was, this topic is not something we've talked about it. We've gone over it. We've said our piece. It can't be, nothing's going to change about it. So let's move on from it. And if they keep going back there, I just completely ignore the text. I completely ignore the text. Or if they bring it up in person and we're talking, I'll move away or I'll do something. I'm not going to turn it into a fight, but I'm going to keep my own boundary. And I think that was really important for me to learn as well, that you might have those people that you can't cut completely out of your life, or you don't choose to cut them out of your life. It's up to you. Whoever
Yeah.
you want to cut out, family or not, it's up to you to do what's best for you. But I chose to not cut this person out of my life, but I chose to keep my own boundary.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't-
Yeah.
I think it's hard. I mean, I think it's hard. I think if there are certain people in your family that are really destructive towards you and do not bring any joy into your life and are just, it's always, you're walking away, not okay. I think you learn what you can from them. I think everyone's put into your life for a reason. So you try and learn what the triggers are for you and why they're triggering. Do as much self work as you can. But then I don't I don't like this attitude that you have to keep family in your life no matter what, even if they're being destructive to you. I don't think that's a fair statement to make to anybody else.
Mhm. And I think for in my case, I'm very fortunate to have a family that we can, connect and have really deep conversations. Not
Right.
meaning that there's times that we disagree or we cross boundaries and stuff, but as you said before, I think the communication aspect is really key.
Yeah.
And even sometimes, like if somebody in our family creates like a boundary, sometimes it's actually better to talk about that boundary because then they become more and more resentful, and they don't resolve the issue at hand. You get what I'm saying?
No, what
So,
do you mean? Like, if
like,
they're the one giving the boundary,
yeah, like,
if you're the one
oh,
ignoring it.
like say for instance, I don't want to talk about a certain subject because
Okay.
it triggers me or whatnot. But sometimes, having that conversation about that subject actually will help them grow. or, will help the person who is, not necessarily the person that has the boundary, the person that doesn't have the boundary, learn from the experience.
Oh, I think
And
you're dead right on that. I think you're
yeah, and
brilliant.
so
Yeah.
sometimes, like, it can be, a learning moment for both parties or one party or whoever. And that's why I think, communication and building that trust. Trust is number one. If you don't have trust with people around you, it's, you're not going to go anywhere with them. So building trust and understanding and compassion and communication is huge.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think that's, brilliant because the one person that I was talking about that we were able to fix a situation, they did say, I need to delve into this. And they said, they came back a couple of weeks later because they had talked to their therapist about it. And their reaction was, you know what? My dad did that to me all the time. Like they
Mhm,
came back from doing some work and realizing that's how their dad would kind of belittle or get them to not feel that their opinions were as important and matter because he would attack them personally instead of respecting the difference of an opinion and staying on topic and just debating the opinion. He went personal and oh, you only think that because you know what I mean, like, just I'm not going to give examples, but just went really personal at them and belittled them in a way, and that's where they got that from. And so you're
mhm,
right, they were able to learn by me setting that boundary and us having that conversation. They kind of figured out where that habit even came from and didn't realize they were even really doing it, right? Like, and so you're exactly right. I think both parties can learn. That's why I believe boundaries, if they're done right, is such an act of kindness to both people because it
mhm,
strengthens the relationship, if nothing else. And you can look at why you were doing what you were doing,
mhm. Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think for me, when someone has given me a boundary, like my daughters have given me, like, maybe a boundary on something and a topic, and let me know that that's something that we're going to kind of take off the table right now. And it was really good for me because I had to look at myself and figure out, like, okay, well, why am I pushing that topic or my view on that one item in their life? Like, where is that coming from? And I think if you do, again, instead of having judgment, as we talked about all last month about something like this, but instead of look at it as a chance to grow and a chance to be curious, and don't take things like so personally that you're offended when someone gives you a boundary, but take it as a chance to grow. I think it can really strengthen a relationship, and it can give you a chance to look into yourself and
yeah,
figure out maybe why
uh-huh,
why you were pushing that button, right? Or why you were triggered in that way, whatever it is.
mhm. Yeah, if you're the receiver or the person who's giving it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's very
true.
interesting. Well, it's a whole new world for me, I will say. And I have to say that I see your generation and kids in their 20s. I know there's so much generational stuff, and this generation doesn't know that. I see it very differently. I see you guys as being light years ahead in relationships and your ability to communicate your feelings and your emotions and what you need in a relationship, and at work, way more than
Mhm,
my
mhm.
generation was ever able to do or did.
Yeah,
So I think that can only bring about, good things moving forward, is
yeah,
having people that are more self-aware and respectful. I think that's, you can't fix things if you are not aware of what you're doing. So I think that being self-aware is key. So
yeah. And,
yeah.
we still have work to do. Judgment being one. We're always going back to judgment. So,
I'm telling
regardless,
you.
I think everybody
Yeah.
can work on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, judgment is everything, and we don't even realize how much we're doing it. But oh, I like this. This was a good conversation. I think it's
Uh-huh.
it's all learning, and I've learned a ton. So, and we'll continue to do so. So, let's see. Our source this month is a book that is on. It was on the New York Times bestseller book, and it is a book called Boundaries. So it's a cool book. If you haven't read it, it's when to say yes, how to say no, to take control of your life. I think it has some interesting ideas in it. And it's by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. So it's an interesting book on boundaries. Maybe it'll give you, some insight as to setting boundaries and doing healthy boundaries and all of that. So check that out if that's something you are into or would like to do. There's also some wonderful, I think calm.com, which is one of my favorite things. Calm has like lots of meditations and
Mhm.
quiet moments and something like that. They do a thing. They have a little article too, I think, or a couple different meditations or things on boundaries as well, which I think are really good. So I like that website. They always do good things. So share with us, email us, you guys, and tell us about boundaries you've set, boundaries that may have been set on you or for you. And, what did they strengthen the relationship? How did it work? How are you? Were they respected when you gave a boundary? Like, we'd love to know. So, our email is I created a life I love at gmail.com. So, please let us know about what you guys are doing out there. And know that, let's see, what else? Oh, that our Monday Minute is out, so we have another Monday Minute for you. So please take some time this week to just, play one of the 1 minute, they're about a minute long each, videos to just take some breaths, to take some calm moment throughout your day, recenter yourself. We all start out, as we've discussed, our days with great intentions, right? And a plan for our day and how we want it to go on our journey to joy and creating lives we love. And it can get thrown off track like by 9 a.m. on some days. Some days it might take till 3. Some days it happens at 8:05 or 9 a.m. And so use it a couple times a day, and just take a quiet moment for yourself. So those are our Monday Minute um, meditations that are on under shorts on our YouTube channel. So Jeanette, what's your moment of joy for this week?
So, as I was talking before, I've been outside a lot, and so that gave me the opportunity to really, really focus on what's happening in my backyard as I'm sanding furniture away. I just realized I think I have a cherry blossom tree. I think.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, what? A cherry blossom tree in Vegas? This
Okay,
is
I gotta
interesting.
Yeah, I
And,
gotta start with this.
yeah, and so it has a couple of flowers that are sprouting and it's really small, but it's so cute. And so I think it is, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's beautiful. So that is my moment of joy.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
Mine is that I'm up and around and that I'm on video right now, taping, looking like I'm looking. I'm just like my hair's all up, hasn't been washed, like we're not looking our best or our strongest. And I can honestly, truly say, which is not a statement I could have said in my 20s or 30s, don't care. Like, I'm just happy to be sitting up and here and being full of joy because I am. So, cancer journeys will do that to you. Like, it makes sure and clear to to let you know what's important and what's not. And so, comment away to how I look, and I'll never see it, and that's just fine, because that is my moment of joy of being up and being able to share this moment with you guys this week. So I am so happy to be here. So yeah, it's a good moment of joy for me to have shed all of that. I don't know, ego, I guess, or worry or concern what anyone else thinks. So it's very freeing, is what I would say.
Yeah, and people practice your judgment.
Yeah, work on that. It's a challenge this week with this going on for you not to comment. So let's see if you can do it. Here is me bringing you challenges. There you go. Um, okay, so next week we're staying on our topic of bravery. We're keeping with it throughout the month of April, and we're looking at overcoming fear of failure and building that resistance. And this is one of my favorite topics. So I do love this one because
Ooh.
I think a lot of people have fear of failure. I do not, and I think it's something that, well, I guess I don't now, put it that way. I don't think it's always been the case, but I think it's a good place that we can start talking about, because a lot of people legitimately do, and it's very understandable. And I think we can bond together and work on this together. So I think that'll be fun next week, because I can give you a lot of stories that are extremely hysterical where I have fallen literally, I will tell you this, on my face in front of huge stars and actors and stuff, and mess things up. So I got failures left and right I can share. So yeah, that'll be good.
I'm
Um,
excited for that.
so head on over to Etsy. I created a life I love. If you want to buy any of our merch, you can head to our website. Our latest blog is out as well. So go ahead and do that. On our website, you can join our community. You can email us, and you can definitely get into all of our blog postings. We do one every week, as we do with our podcast, and they're really good. We put down in writing a lot of the ideas and steps that you can take, in that are connected with whatever we're talking about, whatever our topic is. So you don't have to like try and pause this and rewind and whatever, and some good advice, some good tips in there. So read our blog if you are so inclined, and I think that's it, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye everybody. Go out there and create a life you love. Have a good week, guys.
Bye.